What's going on, guys? TG or Thundergod here today, bringing you back to those playground discussions, those back of the bus debates, those Thanksgiving theatricals. I'm gonna stop. Today we're talking about tigers versus lions. Now, specifically, I want to examine the Bengal tiger versus the African lion, as these two are commonly pitted up against each other with a ton of misinformation on the subject. I'm not going to be examining other variations like this Siberian tiger, which we don't need to talk about him. So let's get into the discussion. The first main point I want to tackle is the bite force between these animals. Bite force between animals, or just like creatures in general, is measured in a unit called PSI. For those unaware, this stands for, or is an acronym for, pounds per square inch, being the pressure that results when a pound of force is applied to a unit area of 1 square inch. A lot of people believe that a lion has a PSI of 650. However, this is actually incorrect and has been corrected repeatedly, which I'll touch on right here. The original measurement was based on a 2005 bite test video where a 24-month-old lion does a swift bite coming out to 690 PSI, which on the surface area, right? Lions are in their prime when they hit 5 to 6 years old, so this is still an adolescent and can't be used regardless, along with the fact that this has been corrected multiple times by National Geographic, who had pushed the video out in the first place, such as in 2006 when they released a documentary saying lion and tigers have similar bite force, or in 2012 when the National Geographic noted a similar point in an article saying hyenas, lions, and tigers generate around 1,000 psi, 4,450 newtons. National Geographic notes this again in 2019, and on and on. So the same source used for this initial assessment has corrected their initial evaluation multiple times, all far more recently. So this 650 psi just needs to die. It's also easy to debunk this notion when you consider how it takes 900 psi to break a human femur bone, with incidents such as what happened in Kruger Park in 2019, where a poacher killed by an elephant had been eaten by lions with only their skull and pair of pants remaining. Or a similar case in 2018 in the Ingwalala, I don't know if I'm saying that right, private nature reserve in South Africa. A pride of lions killed a trophy hunter after he killed one of their cubs, eating most of the body, barring the head again. So this 650 psi myth really just needs to die. Tigers have around a PSI of 1050, with tigers, hyenas, and lions being commonly grouped together around 1,000 PSI. This also makes sense considering lions have a similar skeletal structure to lions and actually a slightly bigger skull. So again, no real surprise there. Honestly speaking, and this is something we're going to touch on when we get into recorded cases in a bit, a bite from both parties is going to do damage and can be lethal to the opposing side. The bite force, if there is a difference, is a negligible amount and doesn't really favor either side in this discussion. So it can't really be used as a way to put one side over the other. Next, let's move on to their physicals. Now, these two cats are actually very close in size. The difference isn't astronomical by any means. On average, Bengal tigers are usually slightly heavier than African lions, partially due to how they're a bit longer than their counterparts. On average, lions weigh about 350 to 550 pounds compared to Bengal tigers, who on average weigh 400 to 580 pounds. So while there are potential weight differences, if you assume the lightest or heaviest variation of the two, it's not a groundbreaking amount, but it does slightly favor the tiger. I know some people like to claim that tigers have a 72.6% muscle mass compared to lions' 58.8%. This is also false. The typical range of musculature over a total body mass in felids is 56 to 59%. For reference, in mammals as a whole, it's 44 to 50%. Both tigers and lions are definitely at the upper end of it at around 59%. You can literally look at these two animals and tell 72% is not the actual amount. It's not really supported anywhere either. It's not really a case of one animal actually having an insane amount of muscle mass over the other, but more so these two felines are just specced into different areas almost in their physiques. Like, imagine they have two different skill trees. That's kind of the deal. It's not really like one's just better than the other. They're just going down different paths. I think that you can make the case that tigers have slightly more muscle mass due to their increased weight based on the averages of both parties. But again, this can be variable, and this is just assuming both animals are in peak condition. I think you can give a slight physical edge for that reason to the tiger, along with its superior weight, but it almost doesn't matter to an extent, and I'm going to talk about why. Like, it doesn't really put the tiger an entire tier above the lion or anything to that extent. Lions generally are more massively built on their forequarters with comparatively bigger neck muscles and shoulders. A lot of the time, this is actually covered by their mane, but a lot of muscle balance is built towards the front end of a lion. I'm not saying they don't have muscles in the back end, more so that this is where it's focused on or stronger. Tigers have stronger hindquarters compared to lions due to how their muscles are distributed. This is also why you see tigers lunging insane distances and are extremely agile creatures. This isn't just my interpretation. This is something experts in the field have supported. An example being Chris Heaton, chief trainer at Big Cat Rescue, notes that tigers are long, sleek cats that are built to quickly run through dense forests while dodging around and through trees. They are powerful but mostly agile. Again, what I mentioned earlier, lions are built more like a bulldog, with more strength in their front end for strong strikes in a direct confrontation. Lions are very strong for frontal assaults, but not as agile to turn and are weaker in their hind end. This is also displayed in how the two individuals hunt. I'm talking about like these are anime characters. How the two animals or cats hunt. Lions differ a bit when it comes to hunting prey than tigers. This is partially due to their different lifestyles, as lions will hunt cooperatively when tackling a difficult prey such as buffalo or giraffe, but lions only occasionally cooperate when hunting prey that can easily be captured by a single lion. Lions are also not the fastest runners, having relatively small hearts and lungs and lack the stamina to keep pace for their max speed of 60 kilometers per hour for more than 100 to 200 meters. Lions rely on stalking their prey and charging at them until they're within 30 meters of their prey, unless the prey in question is just facing away from them. Compare this to tigers that are ambush predators that rely on stealth and strength to take down their prey, usually hunting at night using sight and sound to identify prey, as they're able to see much better at night, and actually pouncing on their prey to take them down. Both animals will generally try and knock their prey down or off balance and kill them with a bite to the neck or to the throat, with, for example, tigers in some cases targeting the opponent's jugular vein, although again, lions have also been known to do this. I don't think the argument that lions need backup or fight in a pride is an inherent reason that they're weaker than tigers, even though tigers do live a solitary lifestyle. So it's very hard to just use this as an end-all be-all. So we might need to turn our attention to maybe some reported cases of these two fighting. Now, I'm going to be honest, right? If you're going to use the argument, well, there have been X reported cases of Y animal taking down Z animal. This is a very slippery slope to go down and shouldn't be used as an end-all be-all. The reason for this is that we generally know very little about the two animals in question for most of these examples or reported sightings. There is a myriad of or extensive amount of variables that you'd be ignoring to take these at face value, such as overall health of the animals, possible diseases, state of hunger, possible pre-existing injuries, age in comparison to their adversary. Like, if an adolescent tiger fights a prime lion, of course the lion's most likely going to come out on top. The list could go on and on, so I generally take these with a grain of salt, especially since there are actually quite a few reported cases for both sides. We have multiple examples of tigers killing lions. At the Coney Island Animal Show in 1909, a performing lion attacked a chained tiger by leaping through the air, landing on the tiger's back, and although hampered by a heavy neck chain, fastened to the iron bars of the arena, the tiger was more than a match for the lion and mangled it to death. Or in September 2010, a Bengal tiger at Ankara Zoo passed through a gap between its cage to that of a lion and killed it with a single paw swipe. The tiger severed the lion's jugular vein in a single stroke with its paw, leaving the animal dying in a pool of blood. It's actually noted that in the early days of Rome, tigers versus lions was a common matchup, and there was repeated battles between the two where the tigers had more often than not come out on top, even with the strongest lions being put directly against them. And there are other historical notes of people kind of doing these gladiator pit type arenas with tigers actually coming out on top. But then you can flip this, because we also have reported cases of lions killing tigers. For example, at the Southport Zoo in 1949, in a 3-minute fight between a lion and tiger, the lion killed the tiger. The fight occurred when the tiger put his head through a connected slide. The lion caught the tiger by the throat and, dragging it through the opening, killed it before the keepers arrived. A lot of these are actually taking place in captivity, which you can argue affects the outcome of the fight. Although we do have direct showings or direct incidents of relativity between the two. For example, Burt Nelson in 1938 said that in Chicago, when 20 lions and tigers were mixed together for the act of the circus, a fight broke out and occurred, and there was no fatalities. Or again, if you want maybe something in the wilderness, The Sun, a New York City newspaper published from 1833 until 1950, just for some context, reported an encounter by an Indian village at the bank of a creek connected to the Kaveri River. There was a drawn-out fight between a tiger and a lion where it was actually inconclusive. We don't really get to... They both kind of wander off injured after the fact as they both fall into a river, with the tiger's agility being noted in this encounter, but still not being able to give him the definitive edge over the lion in this fight. And there are just numerous instances or, you know, viewings or showings of one side beating the other that have been reported, and there's obviously different circumstances circumstances surrounding those instances as well. So you could really say everything, which is also why, again, I don't like just using, oh, X case is an end all be all, as there's so many different arguments off of what's been portrayed in history. And again, even with those examples, we just don't know everything. The way I look at lions versus tigers is that they're just specced into different areas. A lot of times, these animals do actually just try to knock the other one over and try to go for that neck bite, or attempting to claw their opposition away via a paw swipe. I mean, honestly speaking, if you do look up videos of tigers versus lions, it's a lot of the animals jumping into each other and just going for the neck or slapping each other down. Now, I do think tigers have a slight advantage due to their hind legs and how they are slightly stronger, giving them a bit of an edge in this category. But again, in most instances, you don't really see it making that much of a difference to where the tiger is like a tier above a lion, or the lion isn't able to actually contend with the tiger. Especially since, again, its front side is the superior one, which would aid into its claw strikes. But again, not to the point where it's just a tier above the tiger itself. So the way I would put it is that these two are extremely comparable. I think the gap between them is very close. If you want my personal opinion, I slightly favor the tiger due to its increased weight and higher agility. I think that offers it more options. However, to say it would no-dip a lion is pretty extreme and pretty disingenuous. Like, I would probably just say, given all, like, if you gave me perfect circumstances, you know, these animals are both peak weight, perfectly healthy, which, you know, is never really going to be the case as its nature. You know, there's no additional problems. I would probably say the tiger 5.5 times out of 10. But you have to understand, and this is pretty much with every example you see, it's very possible there's a distinct reason why one is winning over the other, as opposed to just one being outright superior. So that's the video. I do lean slightly into tigers. However, I do think lions are very close. Like, I think if you're putting tigers a tier above a lion, it's pretty ridiculous, honestly speaking, just due to all the information presented in this video. So I think the two are very close. I have my own personal edge on the tigers for the physicals, but, you know, you could say whatever you want, honestly speaking, and it probably works. Let me know if I changed your guys' mind. What's your opinion down below? All that good stuff, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.